Good evening. ಸುಮಾರು ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ಯಾ?
ಇನ್ನೂ ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಇವತ್ತು ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು.
ಹಲೋ,
ನೋ ಸರ್,
ಯಾವಾಗ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀಯಾ?
ಇವತ್ತು ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಸರ್.
ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಡೇಟ್ 25th August. Without file. Next, so we'll continue from the previous class. In the previous class, we discussed what are the deficiencies in the pre-GST era. Prior to introduction of GST, in the earlier indirect tax laws, what were the deficiencies or what are the difficulties faced by the taxpayers or the businessmen we have seen in the previous class. Now, in order to find out a solution or in order to eradicate the deficiencies, the government introduced GST in on 1st July 2017. The effective date of implementation of GST in India is 1st July 2017. Now we'll see what is the objective in bringing the GST. We already know these objectives and we will quickly go through it. What are the objective in bringing the GST? First, tax on transaction of supply of goods or services. Now, prior to GST and the earlier indirect tax system, there were various point of taxes and there are various levies which was attracted on various point of supply chain. Basically, on the manufacturing activity, there was a tax called excise duty. Again, when you are selling the good, there was one more tax called sales tax, whether it may be a VAT or it may be a central sales tax, depending upon where you are selling, whether it is within a state or outside the state. Then again, whenever you are importing a good, one more tax was levied called custom duty. Again, in the custom duty, there were three levies. One is a basic custom duty, another one is CVD, countervailing duty, another one is special additional duty, SAD. Isn't it? Now, again, on the provision of services, there was a service tax which was attracted, which was levied. Not only this, over and above, whenever there is a procurement of goods from the outside the local territory, there was the entry tax also getting levied. And in some states, it was also called as octroi. And if you are living in a or if you are availing some luxurious services like 5-star hotel services, or if you are buying some luxurious goods, for example, buying a jewelry or gold, there was one more tax called luxury tax. Isn't it? It was attracted only on the luxurious goods or services. So like that, there were various taxes were levied at various stages of supply chain. Now, under the GST, there was only one point of taxation. Is the point of taxation is whenever you supply any goods or services, they removed all the definition of the definition of manufacture, definition of sale are not relevant under the GST now. Now, under GST, what is relevant? Only one term, that is supply. Whenever there is a supply, GST will be attracted. Whenever there is a supply, that time the GST will be attracted. Whether GST is chargeable or not, we will see it afterwards. Now, under GST, the point of taxation is a supply. The tax is on transaction of supply of goods or services. Simple and uniform tax law. Across the country, the tax law is uniform. You don't find any difference, unlike in prior to GST era, where we had a state-wise VAT laws, like 29 states, we had around 29 different VAT laws which existed in India. But under GST, though there is a provision for Karnataka, so they, though there is a provision for state GST laws, there is a two GST laws. Basically, one is central, another one is state GST laws. The state GST law is enacted by the respective states, but however, if you see all the state GST laws is nothing but a cut and copy paste of the CGST laws. That means all the state GST laws are unified. There is a uniformity, isn't it? For example, if you take out a Karnataka State GST Act and if you see section 56, the same provision is there if you go and open a section 56 of the Andhra Pradesh or Telangana SGST Act. Getting a point? So, hence by introduction of a GST law, the one main objective was achieved was bringing a uniformity in the laws followed by across the countries. So there is no difference in the laws. Around 95% of the laws are similar in nature for all the states in India, And they have brought in the standard rate of tax. For example, if you are purchasing a mobile phone, in Karnataka it is taxable at 18% anta helidre, for example, just to give an example. In Tamil Nadu also it is taxable at the same rate, 18%. But earlier it was not like that. Under the respective VAT law, there was a power given to the states where they were tinkering with the rates of taxes. Karnataka ishta bandastu rate of taxes na Karnataka notify ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು on a particular goods, and Tamil Nadu ishta bandastu rate, whatever they feel right, the rate of tax was determined by the Tamil Nadu government on a set of goods, isn't it? Now that power has been taken away, and is still with the state only, but they will not modify any rates. They are going to adopt whatever the GST council is going to recommend. There is a council and there is a committee has been formed to look after the entire GST law at the national level. We will come to that. So the second objective was introduced by introduction of a GST is uniform rate of taxes. One is uniform tax law. Though it is not a simple, it is little bit complex, but once you are studied the complete GST law, that means you are a qualified GST, you can become a qualified GST expert, and you can give a guidance or you can give a advice on all over India basis. But earlier, as I told, if you are sitting in Karnataka, you may not be able to do the VAT audit of West Bengal, because the reason being the Karnataka VAT Act and the West Bengal VAT Act, the provisions was not the same. But in GST era, the provisions of the Karnataka GST Act as well as the West Bengal GST Act, to the extent of 95% is more or less the same. Even in some states, it is 100% same. Clear? Next, transparency in tax system. Another objective achieved by the introduction of through the introduction of GST is transparency in the tax system. What do you mean by transparency? Basically, transparency and visibility. ಜನರಿಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಬೇಕು ಎಷ್ಟು ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಎಷ್ಟು ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಆನ್ ಗೂಡ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಸರ್ವಿಸಸ್, ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮಿಂಗ್ on that goods or services, how much government is taking the revenue by way of a GST or an indirect tax. Now that has been achieved. Earlier, before GST, end consumer ಗೆ invoice ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. In most of the invoices, tax na separate ಆಗಿ disclose ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. They were not showing VAT ಎಷ್ಟು collect ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ, service tax ಎಷ್ಟು collect ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ ಅಂತ. But through the introduction of GST, it has made mandate, it is made clear, whenever you are making a taxable supply of goods or services, it is mandatory for the dealers or a businessman to issue a tax invoice where they need to clearly mention how much they are collecting by way of a GST from the end consumer. That's why you see whenever you go to a restaurant or whenever you buy any goods, you see there is addition made on the value of the goods called CGST or SGST or IGST, depending upon where you are buying. Clear? Next, GST is a value added tax. We'll see what do you mean by value added tax in a subsequent slides where we are going to take up one example, so we'll understand what do you mean by value added tax. In simple, what do you mean by value added tax? Whenever you make a value addition to a good or service, only to the extent of value addition you will be asked to pay the goods and service tax. This was there in even in a earlier pre-GST era also, we were following the same system, value addition method. Whenever there is a value addition, that time only there will be net outflow of cash to the businessman. For example, if I am buying a 1000 rupee mobile phone anta helidre, if I am a dealer in mobile phone, let's say I am a Sangeeta mobile phone, I am buying a mobile phones from the Vivo company, okay, 1000 rupees. Now on that 1000 rupees, definitely I would have paid GST, isn't it? And assume on the 1000 rupees I would have paid 18% GST, 18% tax pay madidini anta itಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. 1000 into 18% comes to 180 rupees. Now, if I am selling the same mobile phone for the end consumer, assume there is no profit margin is added. ಏನು ಕೂಡ ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ. 1000 rupees ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ, 1000 rupees ಸೇಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. Then in such a case, again on the 1000, what is the selling price? 1000 rupees. On that 1000, 18% GST has to be paid. So on my sale, on my purchase, 18%. Okay. On my purchase, I already paid 18%. The purchase value is 1000 plus GST, assume at 18%. I have paid 180 rupees. This is a purchase. Okay. Now this 180 rupees, I can take it as a input tax credit. Input tax credit. What do you mean by input tax credit? We have understood in the previous class. Now this is all the purchases are being my inputs. Whatever the tax paid on the inputs will be called as a input tax. Whenever I can take the input tax, that is 180 rupees, to offset my outward tax liability, ನಾನು ಏನು ಸೇಲ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಕಟ್ಟಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಎಗೇನೆಸ್ಟ್ ನಾನು ಅಡ್ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ, then it will become a input to tax credit. Assume the same mobile phone I am selling for a sale value is 1000 rupees only. I am not adding anything. Profit margin ಏನು add ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ. So in that case, again GST at 18% has to be paid, isn't it? Now what is the GST? 180 rupees. Now in this case, my input, this is input, and this is my output. Input to tax and output tax being the same, 180 rupees and 180 rupees. Now sale melu kuda 180 rupees tax katbeku. Again on the purchase I already paid 180 rupees. So that means what is the net payable? Net payable will be 0. Why 0? What is my output? 180. Input, I can take a credit of the input tax whatever I paid. So that is also 180 rupees. So net payable is nil. Getting the point? Since there is no value addition here for a particular good what you are selling, there is no value addition. The tax payable by a dealer is nil. Assume he has made a value addition of 200 rupees. 200 rupees value addition ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾನೆ. That means that is a profit margin for him. So in that case, the output tax payable will not be 180 rupees. 1200 into 18%. What will be the output tax? 216 rupees. 216 rupees. So that means my output tax is 216. But however, out of 216, I have already paid 180 rupees as my input. Purchase ಮಾಡುವಾಗಲೇ 180 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ವಿವೋ ಕಂಪನಿಗೆ. ಸೊ ಇನ್ ಸಚ್ ಎ ಕೇಸ್ ಮೈ ನೆಟ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಲೈಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ನಾನು ಕೈಯಿಂದ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪೇ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಡಿಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ ದೀಸ್ 36 rupees. Now just calculate 36 rupees ಹೇಗೆ ಬಂತು? Just so how much is the value addition? Value addition ಎಷ್ಟು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ? 1200 minus 1000. 200 rupees is the value addition, isn't it? 200 into 18% is equal to 36. Getting the point? So what is my value addition? Value addition is only 200. I am at the end of the day, the dealer in a mobile phone is going to pay only 36 rupees as a GST. That means only on the value addition what he is making, on that only he is discharging the tax. This is why it is called, GST is also called VAT in most of the states, isn't it? Now because India already ಮುಂಚೆ VAT ಅಂತ ಇತ್ತು, that's why they didn't name it VAT, because people ಜನರಿಗೆ ಕನ್ಫ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ VAT ಅಂತ ಇದೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ VAT ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಟರೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಕನ್ಫ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. That's why they changed the name to goods and services tax. Now this GST is also nothing but a value addition tax, value added tax. Whenever you make an addition to the value, that time only GST will be applied. Even if you don't make a value addition, you have to charge a GST, but outflow will be nil. Cash outflow will be nil. Next, another objective in bringing the GST is a continuous chain of tax credit. Continuous chain of tax credit anta helidre, see in that supply chain overall the people are involved. We discussed this in the previous class also. First there will be a manufacturer, then there will be a distributor or a trader, isn't it? Then there will be a ultimate consumer. Yeah. Now this is a supply chain from the manufacturer to the dealer, from the dealer or a trader to the consumer. Earlier, manufacturer was used to charge excise duty and VAT or CST, isn't it? When it comes to the dealer, whether he was taking both excise duty and VAT or service tax, VAT or CST as a credit, whether he was taking the credit, both excise duty and VAT as a credit, dealer ಎರಡನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ತಗೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದ, ಇನ್ಪುಟ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ತಗೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದ ಅವನು. Whether he was taking the credit, both excise duty and VAT, dealer, which tax he was taking the credit? Earlier, the dealer was used to take only VAT credit. Excise duty credit was not available. SENVAT credit, I termed it as a SENVAT. If you remember the previous class discussion, the dealer in a good was not eligible to take SENVAT credit and also a service tax credit. Isn't it? SENVAT, why? What is the reason? Because there was no manufacturing activity done by the dealer or a trader. Excise duty was usually levied on the manufacturer, isn't it? So that means this excise duty credit was available only to a manufacturer. Dealers irtane irliಲ್ಲ. That means the credit was missing. Continuous credit was missing in the supply chain. But in the case of GST, it is not like that. Manufacturer GST charge ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. Okay, he is also charging GST. The same whatever charged by a manufacturer can be taken as a input tax credit by the dealer or trader. Clear? The same thing will be passed on to the consumer. Obviously, end consumer, being a end consumer, avane consume ಮಾಡ್ತಿರೋದು, subsequently is not dealing in any business. ಅವನೇನು ಕೂಡ business ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, then he cannot take the credit, he has to bear it. So ultimately, who will be bearing the taxes? Who will be bearing this tax, burden of tax in the indirect tax system? Ultimate consumer. Now, burden borne by the final consumer, no cascading of taxes. Tax mele tax illa. Under indirect, under GST law, there is no cascading. I mean, tax upon tax is not there. How it is avoided? See, earlier, VAT charge ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ there was a different assessable value. Excise duty charge ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ different assessable value ಇತ್ತು. Excise duty was always charged on the value of the good. ಎಷ್ಟು ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಗೆ ನೀವು ಗೂಡ್ಸ್ ನ ಸೇಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ ಆ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಮೇಲೆ ಎಕ್ಸೈಸ್ ಡ್ಯೂಟಿನ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ. However, VAT was charged inclusive of excise duty. Now, mobile phone ಎಷ್ಟು ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ 10,000 rupees. ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಎಕ್ಸೈಸ್ ಡ್ಯೂಟಿ ಎಷ್ಟು 1,800. Now you add both, that will come to 11,800. On that, VAT was getting charged at the rate of 15 or 12 or whatever may be the rate notified by the government. Getting a point? Now, that 11,800 is inclusive of the tax. Now you are calculating the VAT, that is not only on the basic price of the good, but also on the tax portion, excise duty portion. So that is nothing but a cascading effect was getting created. Tax on tax you are collecting. Next, that cascading effect was not applicable. ಇಲ್ಲಿ 10,000 rupeesಗೆ ಮ್ಯಾನುಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಚರರ್ ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ಸೇಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ಅಂಡರ್ GST, on the same 10,000 rupees GST is calculated. Now 10,000 rupees might become 12,000 rupees in the hands of a dealer because 2,000 profit margin add ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. Okay, now dealer has to charge GST on the 12,000 rupees. Now here only on the value of the goods will be, or value of the services we will be charging the GST, excluding all the taxes whatever levied on the goods or services. Next, comprehensive tax structure covering both goods and services. Earlier we had a separate laws governing the goods, we had a separate laws governing the services. On the services, only the center had a power. You need to remember, ಯಾರ ಹತ್ರ ಇತ್ತು ಪವರ್ ಸರ್ವಿಸಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ? ಓನ್ಲಿ ಸೆಂಟರ್ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ಎ ಪವರ್ ಟು ಲೆವಿ ದ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಸ್ ಆನ್ ದ ಸರ್ವಿಸಸ್. ಆನ್ ದ ಗೂಡ್ಸ್, ಬೋತ್ ಸೆಂಟರ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದಿ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ಎ ಪವರ್. ಇಂಟರ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ದ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಏನಾದರೂ ಕೂಡ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ದ ಪವರ್ ಟು ಲೆವಿ ದ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್. ವಿತ್ ಇನ್ ಎ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಏನಾದರೂ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ರೆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ದ ಪವರ್. ಓನ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ದ ಪವರ್ ವಿತ್ ಇನ್ ಎ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್. ಲೋಕಲಿ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಗೂಡ್ಸ್ ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಸೇಲ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಯಾರು ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದಾಗಿತ್ತು? ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ಡಿಂಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎ ಪವರ್. ಓನ್ಲಿ ದ ರೆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ದಿ ಪವರ್ ಟು ಲೆವಿ ದ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಸ್. It may be VAT or a CST, sales tax, isn't it? CST again is collected by the or governed by the central government, or it's a law enacted by the central government. But who is collecting the taxes under the CST law? Again, it was going to the respective state government. It was also called as a origin tax. But under GST, there is no much bifurcation between goods or services, isn't it? Both, it's a tax on both goods and services. GST is a tax on both goods and services. Now, today, central government has the power even to tax the local transactions. Earlier, that power was not there. Now, today, under GST law, the state government has given, state governments have been given a power to levy the tax on even on services also. Earlier, services, even locally, within the same state, services ರೆಂಡರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಗಳಿಗೆ ಪವರ್ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ. ಬಟ್ ನೌ ಟು ಅಂಡರ್ ದ GST ದ ರೂಲ್ ಹಸ್ ಬೀನ್ ಚೇಂಜ್. ಇವನ್ ದ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಗೆಟಿಂಗ್ ಎ ರೆವಿನ್ಯೂ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದ supply of services, provision of services. Whenever there is a provision of services, on that state governments are getting a revenue. Clear? That is the biggest change in GST. Next, when the GST law got passed, not only one legislature which got enacted, there were about 5 legislations. You need to remember this. One law enacted agilla, and in the name of GST, there were about 5 laws got enacted. These were all necessary. These are all necessary laws which has to be enacted, because which is giving, which was, these 5 laws are basically dealing in different subject matter. There is a reason why 5 laws has been enacted. What are the laws which got enacted? First, Central GST Act, that is also called as CGST Act 2017, first law, which was again enacted by the central government. The purpose of enactment of this law was to levy on all supply of goods and services within a particular state. You need to underline the word within a particular state. That this is also called intra-state antenu kuda karitare. Within a particular state anta helidre it is also called intra-state. Now, whenever there is a local sale, I will call it as a local sale within a state. Within a state anta helidre, we will take an example. Let's say A is a supplier. A is a supplier. He is located in Karnataka and he is selling to a customer, that is B. He is a customer who is also located in Karnataka. This kind of a sale is called a local sale or a within a state sale. Sale within a state. On this local sales, CGST was levied. CGST will be levied. Not only CGST, on the local sale, one more levy called SGST, that is State GST Act. Respective state also have the power to levy the taxes on a transaction which is taking place within a state, whether it may be relating to goods or it may be relating to services. That's why in order to give the power to the respective states to levy a tax on a transaction of goods or services, on a supply of goods or services within a state, one more law got enacted in the respective states. See, this is state GST is a state matter. ಎಷ್ಟು ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಗಳಿವೆ? ಅರೌಂಡ್ 28 states we are having in India. That means 28 SGST laws are existing in India. Yeah. Now this SGST laws are enacted by the respective state governments to levy a tax on goods or services within a particular state. ಆ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಸೇಲ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, on that supply, basically we don't call it as a sale, we call it as a supply. Whatever the supplies are happening, goods or services within a particular state, to levy a tax on that, SGST laws have been enacted. So that means whenever there is a local sale within a state ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ ಸೇಲ್ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, not only one tax is levied, two taxes will be levied. Getting the point? What are the taxes? CGST, SGST. In both these laws, if you see, the basic objective of enacting these separated laws, one is to give a power to the central government. Central government ಗೆ power ಕೊಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ. For what? To tax a supply of goods or services which is taking place within a state. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಆಫ್ ಗೂಡ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಸರ್ವಿಸಸ್? ವಿತಿನ್ ಎ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್. ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ. ವಿಲ್ ಟೇಕ್ ಎನ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, ವಿತಿನ್ ಎ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್, ದಟ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್. ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್, ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ರೆವಿನ್ಯೂ ಬೇಕಲ್ಲ. ಲೋಕಲಿ ನನ್ನ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಸೇಲ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ನನಗೆ ರೆವಿನ್ಯೂ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಹೇಗೆ? ಓಕೆ, ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಗಿವ್ ಎ ಪವರ್ ಟು ಯು ಆಲ್ಸೋ. When the central government levies the CGST, at the same time you also collect the taxes on the supply of goods or services which is taking place within the same state. In state ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು supply ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, on that transaction you can also collect the tax in the name of SGST. In the name of SGST. Getting the point? So that's why whenever you purchase any goods, you will see two taxes: CGST, SGST. Now this is called concurrent power. Concurrent anta helidre simultaneous. Under the GST, there is a concurrent power has been given to both the center and the state governments, where both these governments are levying a taxes simultaneously on a particular transaction of a supply of goods or services. This power was not there earlier. ಯಾವಾಗಲಾದ್ರೂ ಇನ್ prior to GST law, whenever there is a sale ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ only state government used to levy a tax. Central government ಗೆ power ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. Getting the point? This is the difference. Next, third one, we had the central government. Now state government, SGST, who was enacted the SGST law? SGST law was enacted by respective state government. ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ 28 ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ 28 ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ have enacted the SGST law. That's why we call it as Karnataka SGST law, or Tamil Nadu SGST law, or West Bengal SGST law, or Maharashtra SGST law. Getting the point? So basically all the states are enacted. Now coming to the integrated GST. Okay, in both these laws, they were levying the tax only on transaction happening within a state. But the question is, what happens if it is outside the state, between two states? For example, the seller is in Karnataka, the buyer is in Maharashtra. Elidane buyer Maharashtra. So within the state adre two taxes are levied: CGST, SGST. Okay. Now what happens if the transaction is between two states? If there is a transaction between two states, who has to levy a tax? Which tax has to be collected? Whether again same CGST, SGST is applicable? Answer is no. If the transaction is between two states, I'm just giving an example. If the transaction is an interstate transaction, what do you mean by interstate? Just to give an example, there's a definition of interstate. We'll come to the definition, but to give a basic idea, what is interstate? A sale is happening between a person situated in two different states. That is, a seller is in Karnataka as well as a buyer is in another state, that is in Maharashtra. In this case, this transaction is called interstate transaction. On that, state government does not have any power to levy a tax. Clear? Karnataka state government, that means the seller, who is the seller? Person who is located in Karnataka. Karnataka government cannot levy a tax. Then who can levy a tax? For that there is a separate law. What is that separate law? Integrated GST Act 2017, IGST. Who has enacted this tax? Who has enacted this tax law? This law was enacted by central government. Getting a point? Basically, IGST, that is Integrated GST Act, governs the transaction which are taking place between the two states. That means interstate transactions. On the interstate supply of goods or services, a separate tax will be levied called IGST, Integrated Goods and Service Tax, which is again levied by the central government, collected by the central government. Here, now you need to remember one of the basic feature of the GST law is destination based consumption tax. Destination based consumption tax ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ in which state goods or services is being consumed, that state has to get the revenue. ಆ state ಗೆ revenue ಹೋಗಬೇಕು. Clear? Now in my example, which state is getting the goods? Maharashtra state, isn't it? That means in the case of this transaction between Karnataka and the Maharashtra, where IGST will be levied, okay, the revenue is collected by the central government. It is against the principle of GST. What is the basic principle of GST? It is a destination based consumption tax, isn't it? Who is consuming? Who is the consuming state here? Maharashtra. Maharashtra is not getting a revenue. No, Maharashtra will get a revenue. Whenever you make an interstate supply, you need to mention which state it is going to. Services na yav state ಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಇಲ್ಲ goods na yav state ಗೆ supply ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ, you need to mention clearly. And this IGST tax will be collected by the central government. Though it is collected by the central government, it will get distributed to Maharashtra government. 50%. You need to remember, whenever there is a IGST, let's say 18% ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ 18% of 50% will go to the Maharashtra state, consuming state. Who will give? Central government will distribute. Isn't it? If it is a local transaction, Karnataka government ಗೆ 9% ಬರ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು. Central government, that is CGST and SGST was levied. If it is a local tax, local transaction within the state, CGST, SGST was levied. What would be the rate of tax? 9%, 9%. Clear? Central government ಗೆ 9% ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು, state government ಗೆ 9% ಇರ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು. Since it is an interstate transaction between the two states, only one person is going to collect. That is central government ಮಾತ್ರ collect ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಅವಾಗ 50% ಮಾತ್ರ collect ಮಾಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ, full 100% collect ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. What is the 100%? 18%. So there is a different rate of taxes. I am just taking an example of 18%. Okay? ಈ 18% collect ಮಾಡಿದ್ದನ್ನ, then it is the responsibility of the central government to distribute it to the consuming state. Who is the consuming state in my example? Maharashtra. Maharashtra ge afterwards it will be distributed some portion. Since you have consumed the goods, you take your portion. Clear? So in the case of interstate transaction, interstate supply of goods or services, a tax will be levied called IGST. For that there is a different law, IGST Act 2017. Okay, fine. If the transaction is happening within a state, then CGST, SGST will be levied. If the transaction is happening, if the supply of goods or services is happening within a union territory, union territories are not states, no? Yes or no? Union territories are not states. How many union territories are we are having? ಎಷ್ಟು ಯೂನಿಯನ್ ಟೆರಿಟರೀಸ್ ಇದಾವೆ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ದಿಸ್ Jammu and Kashmir? How many union territories we are having? ಎಷ್ಟಿದಾವೆ ಯೂನಿಯನ್ ಟೆರಿಟರೀಸ್?
9.
9. Answer is wrong.